Yeah, hello and welcome to the Gleam Fishing Channel. It's a winter's morning here, but beautiful blue sky, a little bit of southwest, but it's certainly as you'd expect for this time of the year. So we're lucky to have at the moment we've got Ben Pearce. So you might have seen and noted a bit of a theme with a lot of our guests previously, where they were a little bit more mature. And we call it the greying of the fleet because we've got old guys running old boats largely across the seafood sector, and that's why it's really important to have a bit of youth coming through. We were all young once, and Ben's definitely a leader in the youth movement, bringing people into the seafood industry. So welcome, Ben.
Thanks, Darren. For having me.
No, more than welcome. I just note here, I'm just looking through a few of my notes. You're the co-founder of Youngfish, which is designed to connect youth with the seafood sector. So that's pretty cool. Obviously got a bit of a passion there. You're sort of part of the Sunderland Marine Young Fisher Award, so that's something else you've been involved in. You're on the Food and Fibre Youth Council. So for a young fella, that's all pretty impressive stuff. And you're currently a skipper for Waimana Marine in the mussel industry. So you got a fair bit on your plate.
Yeah. No, it's a lot to keep me busy and keep me interested. Most of my time's with Waimana Marine, but it's quite a good balance of time on the water and time off the water. So can't keep away from the industry and the time off really.
Yeah, it's a bit of a habit, isn't it? So tell us about. So obviously you're or just say you're younger, and I don't want to offend, but you are younger than many people I know in the industry. So what got you into it? Like, why on earth would you? What was your background, and how did you end up sort of driving an aquaculture vessel through the Sounds and Golden Bay and places like that?
It's a great question really, and I look at where I am now and I don't really know how I ended up there, but I was sort of left high school in Australia and wanted to move back home to New Zealand, so went along to Lincoln University. Not really sure with any idea what I wanted to get out of it other than make some mates and misbehave. But yeah,
Typical uni student.
I ran out of money after the first year and went and found a job up in Havelock in the mussel industry. Came up here for my summer and I actually had a ball of a time. I was contemplating not going back to uni, but I thought better of it. I'd stick out my degree, and then by the end of it, I made the decision to move up here full time. So I was really, I think probably quite relatable for a lot of sort of teenagers moving into the adult world. I wasn't really sure of myself where I wanted to go, but I knew I quite enjoyed this, and I enjoyed living up in Marlborough and hanging out in the Sounds and the fishing and diving that had. And then this job in the mussel industry sort of helped me get there, and then started out in the rope yard. As soon as I moved up here full time, ended up on one of the harvesting boats on the Intrepid out of Havelock, and I learnt all my boat skills there really. When I started out, I knew nothing. I don't even think I knew what a bowline was, but yeah.
Still a few seafarers that don't, to be fair, Ben. So don't take that to heart.
But yeah, so I sort of learnt a lot and took to it and really enjoyed my time. And in those early years in the industry, I think I jumped around quite a few different jobs and different boats, and I did the mussels, and then in my time off I picked up some kinner diving, tender driving work in the Straits, and that led to some other stuff, which we can talk about later. But yeah, one thing led to another, and I ended up sort of going and taking my skipper's ticket. I felt like don't know if I really felt ready for it, but I was at a bit of a loose end. I was like, I'll go do that now. And a year after that, Simon approached me and offered me the mate's job on his main mussel harvester, the Morning Star. And a year after that, I'm running it now, which is nice.
Yeah, that's a big step up, eh? So it sounds like I guess that's a common story, eh? Like particularly for the youth that are listening. As I say to my kids, it's okay to not know who you are, what you want to do. It's okay, gone is the day of when we left school at 15, 16 and just found a job and stayed there for 40, 50 years, and that was our lot. But what I'm seeing with the youth is they sort of jump around a little bit, and it's quite important to find something that they enjoy. So Sounds like you had very, very similar pathway, that you just, tried a few things before you committed.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And I tried a few things, and I think that first job on the boat and sort of had that, and then I think the first one I was on for a month or so, and then got called back to start working on land again, and I was like, oh man, I just miss being out there and on the water, and it's a pretty cool lifestyle. I remember the when I first started, I couldn't quite believe that this was a job and I was getting paid for it. But yeah, it's yeah.
It's you, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't quite. I think about now where I want to be and where I want to go, and I'm still questioning it all the time. But there's one thing that's pretty solid, is that absolutely nothing that doesn't involve a boat crosses my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess one of the other claims to fame, I guess, that I didn't throw in there at the beginning was you also do a bit of skippering on the Gleam. So, that is probably the most important role you've got. So just validating that. And we do appreciate it, because it's really good, I think, some of the trips we've done, maybe just talk a little bit about some of the trips, some of the things that you've been involved in on the Gleam.
Yeah, so it's I think the Gleam, the ship's an awesome boat. Just the history of it and the sounds in Tasman Bay, and it's a real privilege knowing some of the wood in it, even going back 200 odd years. It really is a living piece of history.
It's a dinosaur. We actually, ironically, there's a family, we call it the Gleamosaurus.
Yeah.
So for an obvious reason.
Quite fitting. But yeah, it's really cool opportunity to drive it around, and then using it to take out tour groups of college students and job seekers and people looking for a place in the industry and trying to find their place, and just show off what the maritime sector has to offer, so particularly here in Nelson, surrounded by the fishing fleet. And yeah.
Yeah, and we've taken, I don't know what the number is now, Ben, but we've probably had 100 odd kids out over the last sort of year or so. And yeah, we tell them a bit about the history in the seafood sector and try and inspire them. So, and that's what's good to have you involved, because, you're a shining star, right? You're closer to their age than I am, and people go, oh, hang on, crikey, this guy's driving this boat, and he's talking to us about his interesting career. So, long may that continue, because you will be a bit of an idol, and you'll probably be responsible for bringing a lot of people into the industry over time. And a lot of us old dinosaurs, they don't really want to hear from us. The kids are 15, 16, 17. My own kids don't want to hear from me largely, so others certainly don't. So, it's a really important role, and thanks for taking that role up. Which actually leads me into Youngfish. So, you and Megan sort of obviously started that, and it's about connecting youth with the seafood industry. So what's that all about?
Yeah, well, I suppose a lot of it's just it's a result of my thoughts and my own pathway and entrance into the industry. And when I left school, I didn't have a clue what the seafood industry had to offer. I didn't have a clue that mussel farming was a thing that I could do, but here I am now, and I'm loving it. And it had me scratching my head about why as an industry we aren't a bit more vocal to the younger generations, the ones who are unsure of where they're going just yet, as I was. So it's sort of a big part of it there is to get out into the colleges and the universities, and just not so much working as a recruitment agency, but just to promote what we have and what we do, and make our industry front of mind, and bring the good, positive conversation to these people as well. And then on the flip side of that, when you get young people super keen to sort of move around and find the job that they want, I moved up to Havelock, and I was travelling up with my best mate, and it'd be great in the holidays because we'd just hang out all year working together, and then we'd go out fishing and diving all weekend together. But my first year moving up here, he went back down to university, and it sort of was a bit of a shock once he went, because all of a sudden I was on my own, and it was quite isolating, a small town in a new place, and I sort of thought it would be quite a good chance to have a young farmers sort of network where just other young ones around the industry who really like what they're doing can come together and just find that sort of mateship and social support. It's definitely an important part of keeping people, of having people want to settle down in an area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, you run a few events, don't you? So you'll have a few beers and barbecues and bits and pieces. So you've run quite a few youth events. I haven't been allowed to go to any because I'm apparently over 35. So the DNA says. But so that's sort of the thing is if you're under 35 and you're either in the industry or I guess largely you want to know more about careers in the seafood industry, then I assume they just get in touch with young fish.
Yeah, it's get in touch with us. We have a website and it has a portal there where you can sort of put your information and your name down and contact, and then we can get in touch from there. It's definitely one of our biggest challenges is actually finding the people to put their hand up and facilitate this stuff. So out in the regions, hopefully there's someone listening and wants to put their hand up to run their own event. And they're all quite entertaining. I don't think I've had one yet where I haven't been surprised by at least one of the people that I've met and the conversations that I've had. You get all sorts of people showing up, and there's always a bit of context to it as well. We get either at someone's facility to get to see the factory or talk to some of the old heads with the experience, and there's a lot to learn, and it's cool to set that scene in a social environment.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, and I guess for anyone that's listening, if they're running a business in the seafood sector, and if they can sponsor an event of getting youth in the area to you, or involved in young fish, then it's a worthy thing. So, I mean, why would someone young work in the industry, Ben? I mean, let's be honest and be brutally honest, because it's this is not an infomercial, as I've said in others, but you've talked about the fact that you love boats and you love the water. I mean, why would youth want to get involved from your point of view? And if you suggest that they shouldn't, which I don't think you will, then go for it. But why would, let's say I'm 16, 17, 18, I don't know what I'm going to do with life. The old PlayStation's getting a bit boring. Why would someone come into our sector and spend a life in it?
I think it's an industry that just offers so much more than just your 9 to 5 job. You can show up and you get the fresh air and the outside air and the sun and the wind and the rain, and I think
in the sound, especially the wind and the rain.
And it can be challenging. Like, it's not always comfortable, but it makes you feel alive, and I think it really makes you appreciate when things are really good as well. And I think you can sort of sit there and smile and just soak it all in. And the conditions can be challenging, but then the work can also be challenging. I mean, you're staying up all night and you've still got bags after bags of kaitai weed to hang out. It's quite daunting, but it's also very rewarding. And I think you look at that, and I look back on all the sort of big nights and big days and trips that I've done, and I'm not suffering from it now. I'm still very happy and loving what I do.
So you get that sense of pride, I guess, and an achievement as well. Like,
once
you've done all the spat, or you've harvested, or you've done all the sourcing around the different farms to identify, what crop's ready to go, then you get that sort of, I guess, that shot of endorphins, You're ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. And you work real hard in that time on the water, but then you turn around and you're rewarded with that time away as well, and on land with the friends and family. And I mean, I think most people in our industry will go out and spend their days off fishing or something by the water as well. So I think that's testament to how much we love what we do. And when you look at the guys around the industry who have stuck at it for quite a while, I think it's a pretty common theme that everyone sees it as part of who they are.
Yeah, we get that quite a bit with a lot of people that come in and we sort of interview. It's not just about the money, it's about being out in the environment. I mean, the money's obviously good and it's helpful, but being out in the environment, diversity, like different things happening every day, like out in the sunshine, the wind, the rain, and the family time as well. So what's your schedule? Are you sort of 4 days on, 4 days off?
So I work 4 days on, 4 days off, and it's generally my boss Simon's pretty strict on holding the line there, and we're happy to go and work more, and if we want to put our hand up, but it's never
So
really.
fatigue management, I guess, is obviously an important part of it.
Yeah, and it's we have another crew coming in to take our place at the end of the 4 days, so the boat's working there on 24/7, but for us running the boat, we're not even at work for half the year, and it's I think that's pretty good. Works well for the owner of the vessel and works well for us.
So a bit of playtime as well.
Yeah,
which is obviously important. So I guess work-life balance. Going back to that first question of why would you do it? I guess that's the option. You can sit at a desk from 9 to 5 days a week, and still be checking your emails and messages over the weekend, which some of us are guilty of, or you can just be 4 days on, 4 days off. 4 days working and 4 days at the beach, I assume, if that was your thing.
Yeah, 100%. And the whole work-life balance thing as well, and sort of alluding to how much a lot of people in the industry enjoy the work and how much we get out of it. The time at work is part of life as well. Yeah. It's sort of...
You got mates at sea and mates at home, eh? Like it's your two families, your at-sea family and your onshore family.
Exactly, yeah.
So what's a day in the life? So, you leave from Havelock. I mean, what's a day in the life, on the vessel for you and your crew?
Yeah, so we're based out of Elaine Bay predominantly in the outer Pelorus Sound. So we show up down there on our first morning about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And we sort of chew the fat for a bit and work through our work plan for the week and
couple
make
coffees
a plan.
And toast.
Yeah. But yeah, then we're off out, and we're an all-purpose boat, so it's really difficult to say what a standard day looks like. We seed, we harvest, we do all the farm floating work and maintenance work on the farms. So from the time we leave the wharf, we're busy on all of that work. I think generally working 16, 17 hours a day is a standard week. It can be more and it can be less, but.
And of course, that's only 4 days, so
you
get plenty of time for rest. Yeah,
and then 3 nights at sea, 3 nights away, staying on board the boat.
Yep. So there's a bit of I guess day-to-day tasks. So there'll be a bit of float scraping, a bit of you do obviously a bit of spat work as well. You do a bit of harvesting as well.
Yeah. So we're the main harvester for the business, so we'll harvest into wherever our mussels are, sometimes between Tarakoe and Picton, mostly Elaine Bay. But then that's sort of just the start of the work. The harvesting generally takes up about 2/3 of your day, and then you go out and the mussels are growing, so you've got to get the floats on to keep them up on the surface, and once you've harvested a line, you've got to get it ready to seed again, and then once you've got all these empty lines that you've harvested, you've got to get them seeded again. So it's quite a balancing act to keep the farms producing mussels as efficiently as possible.
I guess it's a cycle, isn't it? You've got to keep the A to Z's moving all the way through. What's a busy day? Like, what's a good harvest for your vessel?
Our standard harvest is 40 tonnes. So it's 2 truck and trailer loads, and a little bit less than that. We can actually wrap the 40 tonnes on board in about 3 hours if everything's ticking along smoothly.
It's a lot of mussels, isn't it? That's a lot of product. So, no, that's interesting. So I ask a lot of the other people that we interview as well about interesting things that you might have been involved in. So, I don't know, whether it's an event or you've seen something. A lot of people have different experiences. So I know that you're only sort of new in your career, but has there been any moments that sort of spring to mind, particularly sort of when you first started?
Yeah, so I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of little moments that are interesting in their own right. There's definitely a few that have sprung to mind, and sort of little things that get your heart racing. Early on running the boat, my first day in sole command of the boat, I was a bit nervous and I was going out to sea, and it's a lot of responsibility for the first time, and I was actually sitting on the toilet in the boat at the time, and I hear over the radio there's a mayday, and it is about 500 metres away, and there's a little recreational boat, and someone had a heart attack. But we have a defibrillator and stuff on board, so that was sort of my first thought. I was like, man, if he needs that, he needs it now. Got over to them, but they already had one, so it was all sorted. But it was definitely just a moment, like, man, look, yeah.
Yeah, so what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, like the first day jitters, when you're running a boat, all that extra responsibility, and we've had a few stories. I had one similar myself my first day. First morning I woke up and, there's a heap of water in the boat, so it's absolutely... Takes a while though, but you get there, And I remember like the first time navigating at night.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, crikey. I know it's the same, but it's dark. So, learning to rely on your instruments is a bit scary and daunting, isn't it? Especially places like the Sounds.
Yeah.
When you get it wrong, there's a lot of corners and a lot of nooks and crannies where you can end up in the wrong place pretty quickly.
Yeah, lots of rocks that stick up and point a long way off the shore.
Yeah, hard things.
Yeah, and the fog as well in the Sounds is another one. You're sort of in quite close quarters, and it's an interesting feeling. But
willy wars, your whiteout conditions where you got 80 knots and water spouts and all of that stuff, and you actually can't see 20 feet in front of you. I've had a few of those.
Yeah, and it's impressive the wind It amazes me every single time you sort of see those gusts that build off down the hills and they come down, and it's like it's sort of like you're on the on the front of a really fast jet boat or power boat or a jet ski, and that feeling you have in your face that takes your breath away, and it's actually just the wind doing that. It's
the old Catabatic winds, isn't it, coming down the steep hills, but like Milford as well. I remember quite often we spent a lot of time scalloping down there. This boat, the Gleam, spent many years scalloping down there. And on those windy days, I mean, we had many, you might have had, 5 or 6 or 10 bins of scallops on the tray. So you land the dredge and you got all these beautiful scallops. You're sitting there ready to sort them. And an old willy war would go through and the tray was clear. It'd blow them away. They're gone. That would happen many a times. And of course you duck because a missile's coming at you. So, we had crew with cut nose and faces and all sorts as the old willy was, cleared the tray out, which is never much fun.
We have the same when we're seeding. You have a sort of bag of mussel seed hanging up on top of the seeder, and sort of 8 feet, 10 feet in the air, and as that empties out, the bag just becomes a great big parachute, and it gets to point X, and the wind catches it, and all the mussels left in it are flying around the deck like mussel-sized hailstones, really.
Yeah. She's a pretty dynamic place, no doubt about that. So you're doing, you mentioned that you're involved in a Kina and Power project. What's that all about? Yeah,
so I suppose in the time that I spent finding myself and finding my feet in the industry, I picked up some work just driving the Kina tender boats in the Cook Strait. And that was another moment that in my 4 days on, 4 days off, actually, it's sort of another perk of it. You can go get another job fishing somewhere else.
Yep.
But
double income, double tax, nice.
Yeah, and it was awesome. Sort of opened my eyes up to another side of the seafood industry, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think there's too many jobs where you can have more fun at work than driving a dinghy around collecting kinners with some of the out there characters of the industry.
Some of the characters, yeah.
Yeah. So it sort of started in the Straits, working out of Picton and Port Underwood, and then I went and did a season down in Fiordland as well, heading around into Dusky Sound and parts of Stewart Island, and I was just in awe through that whole time. And I came back from that trip, and it really just became a life goal that I want to own a boat that I can take back there myself, because it's a special place. So that's that. And then I'm still involved a bit in the powers in Marlborough, so Area 7 and I think it's Area 3 along Kaikoura, which is quite good, just day trips out of there with one of my good mates. And it's more about fun really when I'm doing that work. It's something different, and the pocket money's a bonus.
Yep. Yeah, so it's a bit of commercial diving, a bit of aquaculture, as you said, a lot of different options, which I guess you never get bored,
Yeah,
that's
no, you don't.
I know when I was fishing, you could run a different boat. You could do, we had, for example, a boat like the Gleam, you'd be trawling part of the year, you'd be scalloping part of the year, you'd be oystering part of the year. Sometimes we were mussling. So, sometimes like the Gleam spent a lot of time pier trawling. So different species, different methods. And if you got bored, you jump on another boat. So there's, I guess there's a lot of variety in the seafood industry, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of different strokes for different folks. There's, no end to different types of boats and sizes of boats and volume of catch and sort of what sort of thing you're catching or growing as well.
Yep. Good catches, bad catches, good days, bad days. But largely, when you sort of retire, a lot of people in the seafood industry retire and they always think of the good days, and that's what brings them back in. And then they get hit by a willy war in the sounds and realise, oh, hang on, I forgot about these ones. What am I doing back here again?
Yeah.
Dose of reality, eh?
Yeah. And I think about some of my mentors and the stories they tell about roughy fishing, and they forget to mention they were actually out there for 2 weeks before they caught that bag.
yeah, lost 4 or 5 nets and, had a couple fish for the tow, but actually didn't do very well.
Yeah.
So what about, so I guess with, we know that we've got a shortage of youth in the seafood industry. I think most primary industries, we have a shortage of them. Do you have a message for, so just thinking about, all the businesses in the seafood industry, we know that we've got to attract people. We need youth to be coming through. Any sort of, do you have a message to the seafood businesses or the sector on things that maybe we could do better or maybe we could do more of or less of, that might actually attract a few more, sort of a bit more youth into the sector?
Yeah, I think being quite visible for the youth is important. Like, you sort of, when you're in those younger years, you're being bombarded with messages from everyone about what you should be doing, and quite often your parents will have one idea of what you should be doing, and then your teachers will have one idea of what you should be doing, and of course your maths teacher probably, maybe not, thinks you want to do that or stay away from maths, and then this teacher over here, oh, you should go and follow that career. But so you're just getting so many messages, so you need to be out there and visible and just giving the seafood industry an option. But then once you've got people here as well, I think every young person is their own person and they're an individual in their own right, and I think you can't run a one-size-fits-all approach for every person. Some people just want to sort of get the job done and show up, and they're more worried about getting home and to their families and their outside of work life at the end of it. And then there's other people who are very, very ambitious and just want to go further and further and go on to the next thing. And it's sort of just figuring out what makes someone tick, I think, is the most important thing. And I personally really like that sort of smaller, tight-knit team that I'm a part of now. I think you get a lot of that, like, really personable and family nature coming through the team, and that's important to me. But then other people really enjoy the corporate world and want to be a part of that. So
I guess a variety, and I get it and I agree, and it is the challenge for businesses these days is, we run a bit of a cookie cutter approach, let's stand 10 people there and do this task, then they go home at the end of the day. But people are individuals, and, so a bit of understanding the uniqueness and a bit of variety. But it's a balance, right? Because we've also got to pay the bills and get some production done. So I think that is the challenge for all sectors, particularly primary industry sectors, is trying to figure out, how do I do the best for my people as individuals, but still get the job done in a large capacity. So it's probably the new challenge, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think that's, I look at the sort of inshore fleet here and I look at a lot of the mussel fleet. I think that's probably one of the biggest opportunities for these smaller businesses, is that you have an opportunity to be quite personable with the team and the people you have on board. Whereas when you have 1,000 staff in your business, it's very resource intensive, like, to be tailored and personable for every single one of them. But yeah, and that's what I like about the family business and the small business model is, yeah.
No, well, that makes absolute sense. It's like, particularly as said, for the smaller businesses, it's easier for them to sort of tailor and create that family environment, and it's always the challenge. But one thing for sure is there's a lot of different employers, a lot of different opportunities, and a lot of variety in the sector. So I guess if people are young out there and they want to give, young or old, like we talked a bit about youth, but the reality is, there's a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, and older in the industry, and I think there's an opportunity for everybody across the full age range, really. So what's next for Ben? Like, what are you? So you're obviously at Waimana. You're doing all these various. You're doing everything that you can to bring youth into the sector. What do you want out of your time in the sector, and what's the future look like for you?
Yeah, good question. I think I always think about what's next, and would love to be running my own boat, doing something or other, have that boat that I can take back to Fiordland at some stage, but hopefully making it pay for itself too. And then at the same time, just helping these other people coming up around me now. I think it's quite rewarding now that I'm in a sort of position that I can train people up to see them coming along and helping them on the journey too. But I don't know what the future holds, but I'm looking forward to it, and I've always sort of keeping my eye out for the next opportunity.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this earlier. I think opportunity is the key, right? So we've talked about the greying of the fleet in the seafood industry. So people are getting older, and I think the average age of a vessel is about 50 years old, and the average age of a fisherman's in their late 50s. So therefore, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of quota. There's a lot of fish. There's a lot of things going to become available. Like, I think probably within the next decade, we're going to lose a large portion of those in the seafood sector just to retirement. They've earned their retirement, which is a great thing. But there is going to be quite a vacuum or a void for youth. And I guess if someone's sitting out there looking for an opportunity, and an opportunity to do very well, someone's got to catch that quota and make that money. Someone's got to grow those mussels and the oysters and the salmon and all that stuff that goes with it. So, I think the future is pretty darn bright in the next few years for anyone coming into the industry. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think I look at the mussel industry and aquaculture. We've got these big growth plans to grow production, and then in the fisheries as well. Like you say, there's the fish there that needs to be caught, and I think in my lifetime it's going to go through a great big shift, as it has in your lifetime, really, with how it's been caught and when it's been caught and who's been catching it. And I think just the fact that everything will be quite dynamic and changing, it will always open up opportunities. And I'm very keen to be a part of it and sort of see where it goes. But I definitely don't. The fish aren't going to stop being caught. It's just how they're going to be caught and who's going to be doing it and where that will be happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. I mean, we've got like a $2 billion industry at the moment, and someone's got to come up behind us with fresh ideas, fresh knowledge, and continue to make it the viable and rewarding industry that it is largely. So, any last words, Ben? So no, that's been really good. You're probably, I don't know, I reckon you're probably the youngest interviewee we've had, probably by, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. So, this is a bit different, and I look forward to looking at the stats on the channel to see that we've actually engaged someone under 35, because it's looking a bit grim at the moment. But so thanks for that. And any sort of final words?
Nothing that really springs to mind, but I think on the channel viewer demographics, I think you'd be surprised to know how many of my friends have mentioned to me that they've been watching the Gleam podcast recently. So it's definitely something to be proud of and a good piece of work. So thanks for having me along.
Oh no, absolutely. Oh, that's good to know. So rightio. So we'll I'll take that as a win and look forward to the stats. So no, thanks for coming, Ben. And look, we've got more work to do with the Gleam, taking the youth out and different job seekers. So we'll continue doing that work. That's all part of it. And obviously the Gleam Fishing channel is just about telling our stories and, why people should come into the industry. So thank you very much, and good luck with your career, and we'll see you again shortly.
No worries. Thank you very much, Darren.
So that's it. So that's been the interview with Ben Pearce. So thanks for watching. If you want to see more of these, remember, hit that subscribe button or ask someone how to do it, because we really need to keep the channel growing so we can have more interesting guests on, such as Ben. So thank you and have a great day.